The Galactic Council had seen many species in its 12,000-year history. Crystalline beings that sang in frequencies beyond comprehension. Hive minds that stretched across star systems. Ancient intelligences that had evolved in the cold vacuum between galaxies. But humans? Humans were different in ways the Council was still struggling to understand. Mira stood in the preservation habitat, completely unaware that she was being observed by 7 different security feeds and 16 biological sensors. The young Vraxian cub, Rico, had her sleeve clenched between his razor-sharp mandibles. Mandibles that could slice through durasteel plating with enough pressure. She wiggled her arm playfully, making a soft cooing sound. The guards rushed in immediately, their weapons raised, containment fields already charging. Protocol was clear. Vraxian cubs, despite their size, were Class 7 aggressive lifeforms. Their venom could paralyze a Thorgian battleship. Their bite force exceeded that of industrial hydraulic presses. And here was this human, this impossibly fragile human, treating the situation like a game. "Stand down," Commander Zelthios barked, his 4 eyes wide with horror. "Human Mira, do not move. We will extract you." Mira turned her head, confusion crossing her face. Rico still had her sleeve in his mouth, growling a sound that registered at 140 decibels and made the reinforced glass of the observation deck vibrate. "Extract me?" Mira asked, her voice light with amusement. She wiggled her arm again. The cub's growl turned into something that vaguely resembled a purr, if purrs sounded like grinding gears and distant thunder. The guards froze. Zelthios's translator must have malfunctioned, because surely this human couldn't be saying what he thought she was saying. "Human Mira," he said slowly, carefully. "That creature is not playing. Vraxian cubs are unstable, violent, and have killed 17 handlers in the last cycle alone. You are in immediate danger." Mira gently pulled her arm back. Rico released the sleeve and made a chittering sound, his 6 legs bouncing excitedly. The human reached into her pocket, the guards tensed, and pulled out what appeared to be a small, compressed protein cube. She tossed it, and Rico caught it mid-air, his mandibles crunching down with a sound like snapping titanium rods. "He's not violent," Mira said matter-of-factly. "He's scared. And lonely. His mother was killed in that asteroid collision 3 months ago. Right? He's just a baby who doesn't know what to do with all that energy and fear." The observation deck fell silent. Dr. Yalvix, the station's chief xenobiologist, leaned forward, his tendrils quivering with what might have been shock or fascination, possibly both. "How does she know this?" he whispered. Zelthios didn't answer. He was watching as Mira sat down cross-legged on the habitat floor, completely vulnerable, while a creature that could disembowel her in seconds approached cautiously. Rico sniffed at her, a gesture that involved him opening his mandibles wide enough to fit her entire head inside, and then, incredibly, settled down beside her, resting his armored head on her lap. Mira scratched behind what the guards assumed was his auditory receptor ridge. Rico's growl returned, but softer now, almost. And content. "In my world," Mira said, speaking to Rico but somehow addressing everyone watching, "we have creatures like you. Well, not exactly like you. Smaller, furrier, but the same energy. The same fear when they've lost their family. We call them dogs, cats, bears, when they're bigger. And we learned something important about them." She continued scratching, her movements slow and deliberate. "Fear makes creatures aggressive, but aggression isn't the same as evil. You're not a monster, Rico. You're just scared. And that's okay. It's okay to be scared." The cub's breathing slowed. His mandibles retracted slightly. Dr. Yalvix was frantically taking notes. "This is impossible. Vraxians don't have the neurological capacity for emotional bonding. They're pure instinct and survival drive." "Perhaps," Zelthios said quietly, "we've been measuring the wrong things." Mira spent the next hour in the habitat. The guards remained, but their weapons gradually lowered. They watched as she played with Rico, using a length of synthetic rope to engage him in what she called tug of war. They watched as she taught him to respond to simple commands: sit, stay, come, using nothing but patience and those protein cubes. When she finally stood to leave, Rico whined a sound that made the station's hull resonate but didn't follow. He sat at the habitat's edge, watching her with what could only be described as longing. "I'll be back tomorrow," Mira promised, touching the transparent barrier between them. "Same time, we'll work on your recall training." As she walked past the guards, Zelthios stopped her. "Human Mira, I must ask, are you not afraid? Do your people not feel fear the way other species do?" Mira smiled, that strange human expression that showed teeth but somehow conveyed warmth instead of threat. "Oh, I'm terrified. My heart's been pounding this whole time. But fear doesn't mean I should abandon something that needs help. It just means I need to be careful and respectful." She glanced back at Rico, who was still watching her. "Back on Earth, we have a saying. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite it. Besides, someone has to give him a chance. Otherwise, what's the point of all this?" She gestured vaguely at the station, the preservation habitat, the entire structure of the Galactic Council's efforts to protect endangered species. "You save them just to keep them locked up? Or do you save them because you believe they deserve to live, to be understood, to be more than the sum of their deadliest parts?" Zelthios had no answer. That night, the Council received Dr. Yalvix's preliminary report. By the end of the week, Mira had been assigned as Rico's primary handler. Within a month, Rico had made more behavioral progress than any Vraxian cub in recorded history. Within 6 months, he was ready for relocation to a proper sanctuary world. The day before his transport, Mira visited one last time. Rico, now nearly twice his original size, bounded toward her with that same dangerous enthusiasm. She stood her ground as he approached, and he stopped just short, sitting on command, his massive head tilting in what she'd learned to recognize as curiosity. She scratched behind his ridge one final time. "You're going to be okay," she told him. "There are others like you where you're going. A whole family." Rico chittered his version of contentment. As Mira left the habitat for the last time, Zelthios approached her again. "The Council wants to know," he said, "if your people would be willing to share your techniques. We have many difficult cases." Mira smiled, that toothy, warm smile. "And the belief that almost anything can change if you give it the right chance." She walked away, leaving Zelthios to ponder the strange paradox of humanity. A species so physically fragile, they could be killed by their own planet's weather, yet possessing a fearlessness that made them approach the galaxy's most dangerous creatures with nothing but compassion and snacks. Later, in his report to the Council, Zelthios would write, "Perhaps we have misunderstood what makes a species strong."